Hello everyone, welcome to the no fail presentation again. There will be no graphics and no funny jokes, but just pure data analysis as the market we track higher and higher and see how the market performs, grabbing opportunities along the way if there's any. Let's start with the Dow. So as usual, we are looking at the Dow heading higher, closing the week very nicely with a nice white candle. So last week we expect the Dow to continue higher, but the Dow just inch up a little bit higher as the result is a little bit mixed, where we see a weak showing in Apple, but nevertheless the good closing helped the Dow to have a potential to move higher. So the next movement is to push up to break up this minor resistance which was formed last week. So just a recap, last week Dow went up, inching up higher at testing this level 35,912 before it closed lower, forming a minor resistance with this black candle. But a good Thursday and Friday helped the index to close up, and of course the week is positive. So we are looking at this 35912 to be broken next week. So if it can break, then we potentially may see some upside. Okay, so I'm going to summarize the US market after I go through the three index. So we are looking at S&P 500 as we mentioned last week. If we go through week by candle, we expect the S&P to retest its support level, which is very close over here. If you look at this black candle, and we are seeing a very strong fight back on Thursday and Friday to help the S&P 500 to close up the week. And of course, our unbelievable target will be at 4813. Still remains remain our target, so remain in sight. And then we are looking at the Nasdaq. So Nasdaq, I mentioned last week, we still see a chance for the Nasdaq to move up to test resistance, and it did. So it moved up to form all-time high. Now if you look at all the three indices, they are trading at their all-time high levels, which was generally expected at the end of September if we were to review the 3rd of October video. But if you haven't reviewed, nevertheless, I'm going to show you here again. So I'm going to do a recap. Okay, so this is a recap of the studies which I have shown previously on the 3rd of October video. And this chart is where I have gathered the performance of S&P 500 for the past 17 years. So since 1994. So you are looking at this as a September month low. Look at the chart over here. This is where the bottom is. And then we are looking at market moving higher in October. So we are in October now. And even higher in November as it peak. Then we start to see some selling action towards December. So if history is going to repeat itself again, we are going to look at the market to peak in November and then start to sell down towards December. So moving into November next week. So got to watch out. And things to note is that 7th of November onwards, the US market start the daylight saving. So our trading hours will be different, starting from 10:30 onwards instead of 9:30 p.m. Let's go back to the chart. We are looking at next week the Fed may be starting to taper the QE program, and therefore there might be some strong reaction from the market. Ups and down volatility is going to be there, so watch out for support for the Nasdaq, which is going to be 15695. So if I'm not wrong, next week there isn't any big shorts from Nasdaq to announce a result. So we have concluded Amazon and Apple last Friday. So next week, probably the market will be looking at whether the hot money will continue to flow in or not. So let's go to the STI. So STI's closing on Friday was very disappointing. In fact, a lot of matching low. Most of the stocks were positive throughout the day, but at the end of the day, it was dumped lower, probably preparing for the start of November. So if you study the candles, the long upper shadow actually suggests uncertainty, and the higher opening and lower closing suggests weakness. So what we are looking at next week could be a challenging week ahead for STI as our banks kick off their earnings. We have DBS starting with the banks announcing before market opening on the 3rd of November, then OCBC and UOB on the 5th of November, if I don't remember wrongly. So we are looking at a week of volatility. So if the market opens weak tomorrow on Monday, then the support level will be at this 3186. So this support expected to hold if the bank result is good and you know, meet our expectation or exceed our expectation. But then if the banks missed, then we are likely to see this support get broken. Okay, so next let's zoom in into the Singapore stocks. So we start off with let's start with DBS. Last week in the video I mentioned that DBS has a target around $32, in fact 32.13. So you zoom up shakily to $32, and you look at this candle is actually a very bad candle. So this two candle formation reminds me of this formation where we start to see the bank start to pull back to the low here. So incidentally, this was a time where the banks announced result as well. As you can see, dividend you know, XD over here. So you know, it's going to be a challenging week for DBS as the candle suggests weakness. So we have to watch out for a level action or price action not below 31.40. So if it goes below 31.40, it could be a signal for more downward action. And I would not rule out the possibility of retesting this major or key support level at 35.5. Now, OCBC has fallen back towards its support level after pulling a high at 12.04, which it did not manage to cross above throughout the week. And we are looking at the support level at 11.79 next week. So if it breaks below, then we have 11.65 as a next support. Now, of course, if OCBC can rebound, showing its potentially good result, we may want to see the resistance at 12.04 get tested, because that will shows us bullish strength. So we want a solid white candle test the resistance. If we have candles that has long upper shadow shakily test this resistance, it could mean that the resistance is going to be strong and unlikely a breakout is going to happen. So of course, we're not going to jump into conclusion right now. We're going to watch the market throughout the whole week, step by step. One point to note is that next Thursday, 4th of November, we are going to break for one day for Singapore market as we celebrate Deepavali. So in advance, I would like to wish our Hindu friends happy Deepavali. So so this is where we are looking at a potential disruptions throughout the price action, but nevertheless, let's play by ear. Yeah. Now UOB went to as high as $27 last week, projected slightly beyond $27, but we can see a lot of uncertainty here, as you can see that the shadows on these past 5 days of tradings shows a lot of uncertainty in the bank's upward movement, right? The point to note is that most UOB and DBS are actually at the high, and probably the market may be looking at some form of corrections or adjustment, but nevertheless we can't conclude that again. So we are going to look at the support level, which was tested on this candle 26.41, held or hold as a support again, right, for UOB. So this test support, if get tested again, we want it to hold. Next week, if any bullish sign is going to happen, it's going to be a solid white candle above $27 for UOB. Now let's move on to the tech counters. Franken We saw a week of consolidations, still haven't been able to cross 2434 resistance. So next week, if the market focus back on the tech counters, we need it to break in order to be bullish. Support level that we don't want it to break is below $22.20. AEM is also struggling to move higher, holding below 422, which we plotted last week, which is a minor resistance. And you really need to break out from that resistance in order to cross higher. And the level that we don't want AEM to go lower is 413. So AEM has to cross above 422 to hit 433 or 432 resistance. UMS pulling back to a low, and this low could be a potentially a good low for this counter if we can close up the wick above 135 with a solid nice white candle. So if the wick itself is bullish, retesting 139 resistance, major resistance, is going to be a challenge for this counter to break. Okay, so UMS, the first step, maybe Monday, Tuesday, we like to see it close at least at 135 level, and then retest this 139 and break out from there, probably suggest more bullish momentum. Of course, not to forget 141, 142 is a another crucial resistance to watch. So going forward, watch out for this resistance. Now, we do not want a UMS to go below 131, especially if it goes below to retest its support level at around 127. That means that this uptrend has no hope. So we're going to see a potential change in trend. Then moving into individual counters, we are looking at this Union Gas holding at its 200-day MA support with a hammer pattern. Now, this counter has been swinging up and down, and of course, frankly, the catalyst to push this counter higher seems to be lacking. So what we are looking at is if it can hold at this support level with a nice closing next week above 855, we potentially see a rebound towards its major resistance 915. So this counter is moving in a sideway, and of course do not jump the gun, especially when it breaks below this major support. Below 82 may suggest more downward action than upward action. Then we are looking at Keppel Corp, seems to have a competition going on for the asset in SPH. The strong momentum on Friday actually subsided, and then the closing was very disappointing as it closed lower. So we are looking at a support here at moving average 20 days, and really to overcome this sellers, we need the Keppel Corp to close back up at 545 in order to be able to push towards 557. So SPH is hot for announcement, right? Has been hotter for announcement. So for SPH, so if SPH has chosen Keppel Corp, which it is closer to. Okay, why? Because Keppel Corp is their partner in M1, and of course Keppel DC, yeah, has signed a partner contract with with M1. So so what we are looking at is that if they manage to win the bid, then of course there might be more bullishness in Keppel Corp. Then going forward is next counter iFast. Unfortunately, although the result was good, so I was saying that last week it may even go past resistance, but unfortunately the resistance is a tough nut to crack. Then although the market opened strongly for this counter, the strong selling pressure with high volume pushed the counter lower, and the selling hasn't subside yet, as we can see more selling action over here. So this is telling you that, you know, probably there might be some downward action, especially the strong selling pressure over here breaking support level. So if I were to turn on the support level here, we can see the counter breaks below its 100-day MA with the next support level at around 824. This counter could continue to move high lower if the candle and the volume suggests. Okay, I'm not saying that this is a bad counter. I'm just saying that this counter has good result, and it does not justify this selling, but the market forces decided to cash in on its good run, and then it may restart again. So we probably may want to take a look at this counter at a lower support level, lower range, and then help to support this counter at around 814 to 828, right? So keep a close eyes on this counter going forward. Jardine CNC is trying to form a base over here. We are looking at a flat movement, and this could be a potentially good chance for trader, as it can be a higher low, especially if this counter were to close above $23, and then the next resistance to look out for is going to be 24.49, right? Then next, the property second mid-tier property counter seems to be moving, especially we see movement in Wing Tai, and then OUE seems to be changing a trend as it breaks above this downtrend line, and we can see that if this counter cross 138, there might be a chance to retest this resistance at 144. All right, next we are looking at the transport sectors. Last week we thought that there's going to be a rebound. Yes, opening strong on Monday, but the selling pressure sets in to push this counter lower into deeper into its zonal support, where we can see a whole lot of support for this counter SIA from 513 to 517, and is pushing towards that direction. So we are looking at this counter to hold above this support level. Now, of course, not to mention 520 is also a support level. So there's a whole lot of support here. We are looking at this counter to give us some more signal next week, because as we can see, it has a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive days of black candles with no sign of rebounding as yet. So next week we are going to continue to look out for a potential sign of rebound. That's similar to SIA, continue to push into its zonal support as it free up the gap. So the last line of defense apparently is at around 418, but we still have some MA support over here and horizontal support over here. So again, like SIA, there isn't any sign of rebound as yet, so we just need to continue to watch on. SIA engineering rebounded, but similar fate to this SIA and sets, we can see this counter pulling back. But the good thing is it's still holding above each 20-day MA. So we are looking at this counter to cross above, probably close above 220 with a surge in volume, maybe above 600,000. Then we can see more upward movement, and we want it to retest this resistance at 225 in order to return to its bullish trend. Then ST Engineering, disappointingly, this counter did not manage to trade past 391 as it pulled back strongly back. This forms or rather this is a formation of not a bullish chart, rather it is more towards a bearish chart movement. But then of course you can look at the whole chart is like consolidating. So it's still too early to jump the gun, but let's see whether we can hold at this support level at 392. Then going to the US market, say Palantir, this was what we drawn last week, and hopefully we can reach there beyond 2760 to this target at 2920. We have a nice white candle closing on Friday. Hope that this continue into next week. So we have a immediate resistance to break right now, as last week it tested a high of 2675 before closing lower, and then Thursday and Friday fought back. So we need it to break out from this minor resistance at 2675. Square, we mentioned that there's some resistance to break, and it attempted to break, but unfortunately, disappointingly, it closed lower. So it forms a long upper shadow that suggests uncertainty, and the market moved back to test this support level at 251. So it is a poor closing to Square. So next week, we probably want to see if it breaks below 251. It could be more downward movement for this counter. Amazon, the result disappointing, but we can see Friday there is a strong market fight back. So before the result, we actually anticipated it to move to test this resistance at 3464. So we needed to break out above it in order to go to 3550. But unfortunately, the breakout wasn't successful. So congrats to those who have taken the profit at around this range. But for those who are still holding this counter, not to be too fearful, this white candle seems to have some bullishness in it. So we have a glimmer of hope, so that if we can see Amazon close above 3402, there might be a chance to revisit its resistance at 3464. Microsoft, last week we projected 331. Congrats, we hit that target. So next, where Microsoft is going to be after this target, it could be even higher, but I'm not going to project it because it's way too overbought. So we are going to wait patiently for the next chance. Yeah. Then Apple result was disappointing. The shortage of chips limited the sales as it opened to retest this support level at 147, managed to hold at this support level and close higher at 149. So that is a optimistic sign. We are looking at the resistance, new resistance form at 153, and if it can test this resistance and break out from there, the major resistance to look out for is 157. Then going forward, we have, of course, the banks. JP Morgan did not close well on Friday. So we're going to see how next week is going to be, because this candle doesn't look bullish as yet. So the minor resistance that we are looking at is this level at 172, and it has to test it and break out from there in order to continue its bullish trend. Bank of America consolidating, but it doesn't look that bullish as yet. So we still need it to close above 48.44, right? So why do I say that it's not so bullish? Because you can see the candle, there is an upper shadow over there, and then the candle isn't that convincing, so it's not clear to be bullish. So if it's going down, breaking below 46.98 may suggest more downward action. Goldman Sachs is also consolidating, waiting. So next week, if the tapering will takes place, how would it affect the banks? Would it boost the bank? Because usually all the Fed's action usually helps the bank to move higher. So we can see the resistance at Goldman shares is about 419, major resistance tested a few times, and then if we can break up from there, of course it's going to be a bullish sign. Morgan Stanley, we are looking at the major resistance at this 103, which this counter has a chance to break out from there. Now, before I end the video, which very close to ending already, very quickly, I'd just like to cover the vaccine counters. So we have Moderna. Let's look at this chart over here, Moderna. What we see is that this counter is slowly gaining back its momentum, holding very well above its 100-day MA, but it is still unclear whether can it break out from this 356 this minor resistance over there. And after 356, there is a 50-day MA resistance at 376. So definitely this counter is not bearish as yet, managed to have a support that guiding it higher. So we got to see next week 356 resistance got to break in order to continue its bullishness. Then Novavax is it's the insider announcement or insider sharing the news of this production issue with Novavax has actually pushed this counter significantly lower to 120 low, which where the counter forms a support level, and now the counter is trying to fight back, and this 20-day MA is going to be crucial for this counter as it needs to break above in order to go back to its this recent 160, and the higher range is 174. So this is a range that this counter need to clear above in order to go back to its bullish momentum. Okay, so thank you for viewing this video. I'll see you next week. Good luck and stay safe.